In the last video, I shared a couple of ways on dithering images to a 1-bit black and white. In today's video, I will share a more creative way of dithering, and we will be using a Turing pattern. So let's start by creating the Turing pattern. The first step in creating a Turing pattern is by creating a Perlin noise. Let's do this by adding a live procedural texture filter and then selecting Perlin noise. Interestingly enough, we don't see anything. This is because there is no layer for the filter to work with. To fix that, I'm just going to add a simple fill layer. Once we have our fill layer, I can move it below the filter, so the filter has now a working layer. Excellent, we got our Perlin noise. I'm now going to add some regular noise to it by adding a noise filter. The idea is now that we are going to process this noisy image until we get an interesting pattern from it. I'll start by adding a high pass filter. We need to set the radius to an amount where you just see the noise, so around 3 pixels looks good. Next, we add a threshold adjustment and keep the threshold at 50%. The final step we need to add is a live Gaussian filter. For the radius, I will keep the same radius as the high pass, so in this case it will be 3 pixels. In order to get the pattern, we are just going to repeat the last 3 adjustments until a pattern emerges. So I will select the 3 adjustments and then press Command J to duplicate it. The pattern is already emerging. I keep duplicating a couple of more times. Usually around 5 to 6 duplicates should be sufficient. We now have our Turing pattern, but it is a bit blurred. But in order to make sure Affinity Photo does not blow up, I'm going to do a merge visible, group the original layers and hide the group. This way the application will be a bit more responsive. On the new pixel layer we just created from the merge visible, we can now apply the unsharpen mask filter. In the unsharp mask dialog, we can just maximize the radius and the factor. I'll press the merge button so it gets applied to the image layer. And there we have it, our Turing pattern. Pretty awesome. Now let's use this pattern as a dithering pattern. I'm going to paste that image and apply a channel mixer on top of it with the channel set to grayscale, so it becomes a grayscale image. If I move the pixel layer on top of it and set its blend mode to hard mix, we get our dithered image. But the Turing pattern we created is just too big to be used as a dithering pattern. And here is a nice trick. If I do a select all and then use the create pattern from selection, we get a pattern layer which we can resize and adjust to our needs. Let's now apply this in hard mix blend mode. Awesome! By adjusting the channel mixer, I can control the final effect. Pretty cool! But we can do better. Let's see what happens if I change the blend mode to reflect. Awesome! A little bit of fine-tuning in the channel mixer and have a look at that. The final result is not a true 1-bit image. When I zoom in, you can clearly see the gray values. But this can be easily fixed by adding a threshold adjustment. There is a lot of cool things you can do with the Turing pattern. Let me remove the layers I have added and go back to our initial group from which the Turing pattern was created from. I will add back the unsharpened filter so we get the sharp pattern back. This is going to burn my CPU, but it is much cooler to see live what is happening. I'll scroll down and add a live twirl effect on top of the noise filter. By playing with the twirl effect, have a look at that. We get this nice fingerprint effect. So if you ever need a fingerprint, this is the way to go. Another cool effect is to add a ripple effect filter to give the pattern a more circular effect. While we're at it, let's try my favorite filter, the Voronoi filter. If I change the blend mode of it to subtract, and play with its parameters, we get this cool, interesting effect. And the final effect I want to share with you is applying a motion blur. This will get the long lines in the pattern in the direction you have chosen. Pretty awesome. The Turing pattern is quite interesting, and I hope you liked this video. Thank you again for watching, and until the next video.